they'd always ask me, well, how do I find my purpose? How do I find what I'm supposed to be doing? I said, oh, that's easy. You don't have to sit on a mountain for 10 years meditating to figure out your purpose. It's very easy. Just follow these 3 steps.
What's up, friends? My name is Max McCoy, and I just had an awesome podcast conversation with Evan Carmichael. Evan sold a company at 19 years old. He was a venture capitalist by 22 years old. He has one of the biggest YouTube channels out there. He kind of coined the top 10 rules for success videos. He now actively gives advice to entrepreneurs, and he's a best-selling author. I recently read his book, Built to Serve, and it really blew me away. I was a fan of his work before, but this made me a super fan. It is Find Your Purpose and Become the Leader You Were Born to Be. And so on this podcast interview, we talk about finding purpose, becoming a leader, overcoming fear, a lot of really good things that that really struck a chord with me. And so I'm sharing the full video here. Not super active on YouTube, but if you're here, if you found me, hello, my name is Max McCoy, and I'm passionate about this kind of information. So I hope you like this video, and I hope you like this conversation I had with Evan Carmichael.
Let's go. Hey, I like that book behind you there. It's looking sexy.
Dude, I have the butterflies. I'm super excited. I so admire you and your work. I have the butterflies. You always talk about how that's a good thing and that I'm doing something right. Put that in your own words for me.
I love it, dude. That's the best.
Why is that for you an indicator that you're doing something right?
Because what's the opposite?
Yeah.
If you never had butterflies, I think you hate your life. That means you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? That means you're just living inside your comfort zone and photocopying every day over again, which you end up hating your life. Yeah. Right. So here's what I would do. And I still get this, on Monday this week, I was interviewing Seth Godin for my channel, and I've known Seth for, 10 years. 10 years ago, we worked on a project there, but it's still like, oh my God, he's got this new book out. I want to do a good job. I'm nervous going into the interview.
Yeah.
The test is if it doesn't happen, right? Like if I canceled on you last minute, you'd feel even worse.
So true.
That you spend all this time researching and kind of getting ready and hyping yourself up or meditating or whatever you needed to do to kind of get ready for this. And then like, oh man, it's not on. Oh, that sucks. And then you actually feel even worse. And that happened to me when I did Tony Robbins. I had Tony Robbins on as a guest on my show. And then the day of, like an hour or so before the interview, his team canceled on me because he had something else happening.
Wow.
And I get it, whatever, it's fine. But I spent like weeks being nervous and anxious and like, oh my God, I'm going to have Tony Robbins on. This is going to be a huge deal. And then an hour or two before, this is such a letdown. It's like, oh, wow. And then it's not depression, but it was a big letdown.
Yeah.
And it took 2 years to get him back on the show.
Wow.
Of following up and staying consistent. So anyway, I think in general, like when you have butterflies, when you feel nervous, it's a sign that you have to do it. Like that's the thing. You don't want to teach yourself that you get nervous and you play small, that you get nervous and you don't do. That's a destructive self-talk that most people go through. And that's why most people don't end up hitting their goals.
I love it. Yeah, and it comes from a good place because I so admire the work you've done, and then just the book was incredible. So for some groundwork, a brief overview, Evan, if you wouldn't mind, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're doing and how you got here, a little bit about your story.
I don't know. What's your introduction to me? What do you like about my story?
I loved your, 10 Rules for Success videos. I've watched those forever. Those definitely gravitated me and allowed me to become aware of you. But then it was the book that really was like, holy crap, this is so valuable. And in the book, I got to know a little bit more about your story. You sold a company at an early age. So tell me about maybe, how'd you get to writing about Built to Serve, helping people find their passion? What was that arc for you?
So I was doing a tour last year in the US. I decided to do a crazy thing and go 90 days on the road and hit 23 cities in the US, driving from Toronto, where I live, to San Diego and back, and hitting, 21 other cities along the way. And I did it because of fear, because my greatest fear is disappointing other people. The idea that somebody would show up and pay me to be there and I would disappoint them just destroys me. Yeah. And so I thought I need to, and I've done lots of speaking and I've spoken in front of thousands of people, but it's still an ongoing fear. It's not a logical one. It's a emotional one, irrational. So I thought, you know what, I want to practice jumping into this fear. So I'm going to do a tour and every 4 days speak again in a new city and speak again in a new city and face my fear every 4 days. Like, let's go, we're doing it again, just to get it out of my system. And I was going to speak about something totally different, but in each of my sessions, I like making it interactive. We had a 3.5 hour session, and they'd always ask me, well, how do I find my purpose? How do I find what I'm supposed to be doing? I said, oh, that's easy. You don't have to sit on a mountain for 10 years meditating to figure out your purpose. It's very easy. Just follow these 3 steps. And that person ended up being blown away. And then somebody else said, oh, pick me and do me. And it's like, people need to know this. And so a third of the way through my tour, I decided that I need to put this into a book to help not just the people who show up to my events on this tour, but that would have a longer lasting impact. And this is one of those things, Max, where I didn't have time to write a book. I'm already on tour. I'm already behind on everything. My team needs me for everything. We're taking 1 day out of each 4 to tour the city because my wife wanted to see the sights and try the food and all that. So 1 day out of 4 was gone. 1 day was doing the actual event. So now I'm only doing work on 2 days out of 4, and I'm behind on everything. And I decided to write a book on top of it. But I think that's where, like, when you get these great ideas, when you're feeling bold, confident, inspired, those are actually the best things for you. And then your brain talks you down from doing the things because it's not smart or logical or practical. And so I've had to fight myself over the years, and now I try to help others too, in that when you come up with those ideas, to actually build them, to do something, to get the momentum going on it. Because if you just listen to your brain, you're going to live a small life.
One of the best parts of the book was how digestible it was and how quick hitting it was. I could pick it up for 5 minutes and I could get so much value out of it, and then I could put it right back down. And that allowed me to be really intimate with the book and just carry it around with me.
I did it intentionally because I suck at reading.
Yeah.
I'll read, I have a goal. I read 10 pages a night in a book, but I get most of my learning from videos. So it's why I have my YouTube channel. Yeah. And the books that I found, for me, the books that have like a 40-page chapter, I would zone out halfway through. Yeah. And then have to go back, and I forget what I was reading, and to go back and read it again. And I feel like it would just take me forever to get through a book. And maybe it's just, I speak English, it's my first language. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a really bad reader. So I wanted to make it easy so that every page you can break. You can read 1 page and break and pick it up the next day and just keep going, or you can go through and read 100 pages at a time if you want. We did that with very much intention. One, for me and my learning style being super slow, I guess, reading. And then also for the people around the world whose English might not be their first language, or kids who are reading it too, who there's no big fancy words in there. Because I don't speak in big fancy words either. Yeah. So yeah, it was meant to be digestible because I want people to get the message.
Yeah. And I'm going to send this podcast to a lot of people I love who maybe won't read the book because, they just don't read as much. But I'm like, I'm so passionate about what you're doing and how it can help people. So I'm wondering if we can do like a brief skimming the surface. There's so much to go into, but how do people find their purpose? That's kind of the theme of the book.
So I walk people through a process called Who, Why, How. So the first part is who, which is your most important core value. This is figuring out who you are as a human being. And when you understand what your most important core value is, it gives you a rock to stand on, and you stop feeling like you're being pulled in everybody else's direction everybody's got some kind of goal for your life and what you should be doing with your life. And people don't have enough clarity on their own direction. So they end up feeling pulled in a million different directions. So it starts with your most important core value. Mine is believe. Did you get to yours, Max?
Mine, I would say it was direction. That was kind of the word I came up on as having a sense of direction, because for so long I didn't have one. And the pain I felt through that was pretty intense.
Great. So direction. So now anytime Max is unhappy, it's going to be because he doesn't have direction. And that's great to know.
Yeah.
That's just great self-awareness. I'm not happy. Why? I don't have direction. And so this will be a repeated pattern. Like, you might have direction for the next 2 years, and then you might feel like you hit a slump. Like, well, what happened? Where did the energy go? Why don't I have the mojo that I had before? It's because you don't have the direction anymore. Maybe you hit your goals and now you don't know where to go next. When you're bringing on people on your team, you want them to care about direction as well, that they know where they're going as humans, as well as where the business is going to go. Hiring a video editor for you, for example, you're going to want to help that person find direction in their own life beyond just, can they cut a video for your channel, right? Yeah. It's a different kind of business that most people won't think of, but this is the kind of business that you, Max, will succeed at. And there's no right or wrong, but there's always like, there has to be that heart of the company. And it's not just a business thing. It's a Max thing that you bring to your business. Some people will say, oh, direction, that's stupid. I just want to edit videos, dude. Like, stop trying to give me advice for my life. Like, that's not going to be a good person for you.
Yeah. Where
other people are like, this is the greatest job I've ever had in my entire life because this guy cares about me as a human and where I'm going, as well as the work that I'm putting up. Right. And so that's the cornerstone for everybody. And I walk people through how to find it, but even just taking a guess at the beginning of, what do you believe that's more important than anything else? What's your most important core value? And then whenever you're unhappy in a relationship or in your life, it's because you're living your life out of alignment with your most important core value. So that's your who. So it's who, why, how. Then the why is your purpose, and your purpose comes from your pain. Whatever you struggle the most with as a human is the thing you want to help other people through so that they don't suffer as much. So you struggled a lot with direction, and you felt the pain and what that meant to you, and how much and I don't know all the details of it, but I'm sure it was very painful for you, and how you felt about yourself, not even like physical pain of breaking your arm or something, just the negative self-talk, the feeling like a loser, that you have nothing to contribute. And so you've come through that. You know, you may not be completely through, like you still want to grow and learn and get better, and you're still on a journey, but you're way better than Max. How long ago? Like, how many years ago was Max at his lowest low?
I would say like 5 years.
Great. There's a lot of people right now who are Max from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot of people. So even this is where people think, well, who am I to help? I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not whoever. Yeah, exactly. But you're Max, and you've been through a lot of crap and come out on the other side. Like where you are right now. If you think back to Max from 5 years ago, you're in that mind space, and now you're thinking, in 5 years, I'm going to have a show. I'm going to interview some of my heroes and bring them onto my podcast. And it's like, that's impossible.
Yeah, it's
right.
crazy.
It's like, this is never going to happen. Max from 5 years ago doesn't think that this Max can even exist. Right. So this is the negative self-talk we have to fight, to say, well, yes, you're not Tony Robbins, but you're Max, and you are already an impossibility to Max from 5 years ago. And then recognize that there's millions of people who are Max 5 years ago right now. And they need your help, and they need your hope, and they need your inspiration, and they need your guidance, right? So that's the why, and that'll never get old. And your who and your why are for life. Like, you're going to be Max, 120 years old, sitting in a rocking chair in some old age home, and you'll still care about helping people find direction in their life. You'll still care. Like, if some 19-year-old came up to you and said, I'm lost, your eyes will light up again and say, here's what it never gets old. You just love it forever. And this is great. Like, this gives you direction for life. Like, this is what most people are missing. This is why I got so frustrated and said, I just need to put this into a book so people can pick this up, because when you figure that out, it's not just something to do for the week. This is for the rest of your life. And so maybe it takes you a week to go through it. I think that's a pretty good investment of your week to figure that out, to set you up for the rest of your life. Sure. But there's 3 steps. So it's who, why, how. How, so that's your who and your why. Your how is, how did you get out of it? So what did you do to get out of the hole that you were in? Maybe what was one of the things that helped you?
For me, it was books, podcasts, which was like learning in an untraditional way, and then things like travel, actually, to put it all together. Yeah.
So then now this is how you're going to help other people, is you introduce them to the right books, like Built to Serve.
Yes, sir.
You're going to introduce them to podcasts. You're hosting your own podcast. Maybe you take people on education travel tours. Like, maybe you sign up with Max for a 10-person mastermind where you go to the Amazon and visit it, take in the nature, and then also do book study club while you're there, right? Like, it's going to be this weird mix that nobody's done before.
Yeah.
But this is how you find direction with Max, right? So how you got out of it. So you're an impossibility. How you got out of it is teachable. It's not some random thing that just happened. You probably tried a lot of different things that then didn't work. but then you found a couple things that did work. That I call your recipe for success. And that is something that you can teach other people how to do. And that will evolve and change. And right now it's podcasting. And in 20 years, maybe it's hologram Max beaming into your living room, doing his thing. So the how will change a little bit. But it's still going to be about education. And I like how you said, I don't know, is it alternative education? So it's not what you're getting, in the school system, right? And so it's going to be introducing people to the podcast, to the experts, to the books, to the videos that might spark the shift to help people realize that they're capable of more.
I think one of the parts that I subconsciously get tripped up on is the how, and and I know a lot of people that, because I am self-employed, but it's not totally aligned with passion yet. There's bits and pieces of it, but it's not it yet. And there's still this story that I think, and it goes in line with your core belief of believe is, do I actually believe that I can make a substantial, amount of money or make a living doing what I actually love? Like, is that actually possible?
Yeah. And so that's why the last section of the book. So I was originally just going to do who I how. Here's the book done. You figure out your purpose, you know who you are, you know how you're going to do it. Awesome. The last section that I added in around how to turn this into a business, because there's so many people who have such a warm heart, good intention, big ambition, but then never figure out how to turn helping others into a business. And so you're stuck doing it as a hobby. Like you'll have this super fulfilling hobby in the evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
And then have to have some job that you hate just to keep going. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how to turn it into a business. So that's the whole last section of the book is let me show you ways to turn this into a business. That may not be like overnight success business, but a business that then you can turn into full-time, that then you can hire people on your team. Now imagine you've got 10, 20, 100 people working for you. The impact you can have on helping people find their direction versus you just doing it part-time, evening, weekends, because you haven't figured out how to turn into a business. So that's the whole last section of the book, because I want people to figure that part out.
How do you see the how going with like a B2B business? So let's say right now, one of my business strategies is I do production and help other entrepreneurs and educators get their message out through things like video and podcasting. How do you see something like that where it's not directly to the people that are like me? How do you see that being a part of service, if at all?
It's finding, so what you just described is a commodity service that lots of people can do. Mm-hmm. I'm going to help you make videos and podcasts to help you spread your message. Like lots of people can do that.
Yeah.
So how do you charge more for it? Why would people hire you versus somebody else? Is because you want to work with people who are helping people get direction. You want to have people who are mission aligned with you, as opposed to somebody who's just trying to sell an e-course or just trying to puff their brand up or sell some merch or something, right? You're going to work the best with people who are mission aligned. Where they want to go spark a change in the world, help other people find, even if direction isn't their one word, they're who, they align with it super well, right? Helping them. So you'll be more happy working on those projects, and you can also charge more for it because now you're unique, now you're custom, now you, I like that as a path, as a bridge to get to wherever you ultimately want to go. But that's how you separate yourself, where you're trying to find people who are thought leaders, experts, hosts who have direction and want to help other people find direction too.
How do you wrote a book on confidence as well. What are one of your one to two go-to tips for confidence? You kind of touched on this idea of imposter syndrome. Who am I to be doing this? What are some like actionable things we can do to work on that sense of belief and confidence?
The two things that I always come back to over and over and over again, and over again. This isn't just like, oh yeah, I solved that 10 years ago. This still happens to me, right? Like, and I think it should. That means you're growing and you're pushing against the boundaries. And I don't think people talk about it enough. They just talk about what they've overcome, but not what they're in the process of overcoming as well. And I think that I'm trying as much as I can to kind of humanize the process, that I'm not perfect and I'm still learning and growing and I suck at a lot of stuff. So the two things that help me are the I'm nervous. Like we talked about that at the start of the show. Whenever you're feeling nervous, that's a sign to go. And that could be either emotional, where you hear yourself saying like, I'm scared, scary, difficult, or hard are 3 trigger words for me. That if I hear me thinking about it, or I say it out loud, or I write it I see it kind of coming out of my fingertips on the screen, now I have to do it. because scary, difficult, or hard are not acceptable reasons to not take action. The other is a physical one, where if you feel your heart beating, like if you said, I want to have Evan Carmichael on my show. And then the first thing is like your heart starts beating faster. That means it's go time. Like you have to shortcut your brain, because your brain's going to then say all the things that won't happen. Oh, Evan's too busy. Evan's not going to say yes. Evan has no time. Evan, whatever. Right. And it doesn't mean it will work out, by the way. Like lots of people ask me, and I'm sure other people you've tried to have on your show, most people won't give you a no. Most people just ignore you and never even write back to you. Yeah. There's something, I guess, in your message. It's like, yeah, I like this guy. Let's make this happen. But the fact that your heart, is beating means that you have to go do the thing. So when you're nervous, when you get butterflies, or if you feel it in your stomach, like that idea, that's a good sign. You have to go do that thing. So that's one. And teaching yourself that Max does difficult things. Max does things that makes him feel anxious. That's what I tell myself. Like if I'm backstage at an event, I was backstage at Brendan Burchard's event in front of a couple thousand people in Arizona, and I blank on how I'm going to start my presentation, and I have no slides or anything, right? So just me for an hour and a half or an hour on stage, and I imagine myself just freaking out and having nothing to say. And I'm backstage, and I'll tell myself, Evan Carmichael does difficult things. Like this is the voice in my head constantly that I do difficult things. The other side that also helps, that I balance it with, is service. I'm here not for me. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. I'm here talking at Brendan's event to help these people. I've got knowledge and information that can help them. Stop being so selfish. It's not about me at all. It's about these people out here who are in the audience. And I'll peek behind the ropes or whatever, what is it called? The curtains.
Curtains, yeah.
I'll peek behind the curtains and I'll see the people, and I'll try to find somebody like, I'm here for her. I'm here for him. Right. I can help this person. And so those two things, when I remind myself that I do difficult things, and then I partner that up with service, that I'm here to help, my intention is good, that calms me down. That gets me ready to jump. And often all we're missing is just the jump, right? Like you might have been nervous as anything for this interview, and now you're fine. Like we're doing it.
Now we're having fun.
We're doing it. We're having fun, right? But it's because it's all this lead up to just taking the first step.
Yeah, it is.
And now that the step's going, it's great and it's rolling.
Yeah.
That's the thing that most people prevent themselves from doing, is taking that first step. And so that's how I continue to try to conquer it.
Yeah, and you're right. It doesn't go away. So it's cool to hear you, say even where you're at, it still happens. Because for me, I've been podcasting for 2 years now, and I was like, I thought I would get over this, and it just hasn't happened. And especially as I keep talking to guests I respect more and more.
But that's the thing. It's because you're growing. You could do
that's true.
Like you just doing a solo podcast, I'm sure wouldn't be as nerve-wracking for you.
No way.
Or whoever maybe your first guest was your brother or your homie or something, like having him back on. Now that's going to be a super chill, easy conversation. You're nervous because you're bumping up against more comfort zones. And there's an infinite number of comfort zones that you want to keep bumping up against. So it's great. Like I can do the things that I've already done with ease. It's the next thing that I'm nervous about.
I love it. One of the things that, and I know we'll wrap up soon, one of the things that out of college is where I felt the most out of direction. Like I was out of on alignment with my core value. And that's kind of where that started for me. And I think it was because I gravitated to wanting to be self-employed and entrepreneur, and I didn't feel like the path that was laid for me, the support of what's normal, allowed me to grow into the person I needed to be. What advice would you give someone if they didn't go to college? What are some things that they can do to kind of prepare themselves to be an entrepreneur if they feel like that's a path they want to go down?
Two things. One, go try to be around the people who you want to be like. So I would go try to work for an entrepreneur. Not some giant company where you're an intern and you're just getting coffee for people all day, but somebody who has 10 employees, who you can get super close to, who is like, I think I could be like this person. Like I want to learn as much as possible and be around the sun, right? Like they're the sun. One, to see if it's what you want. Like you may think you want to be an entrepreneur and then realize, oh, like that is not what I want to be at all. It's totally different. And then two, start your thing up right now on the side. Just start. Like there is no perfect path. I think the biggest problem for a lot of entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs is trying to figure out what the perfect first step is. It doesn't exist. right? Like if you want to start a podcast, you take your phone out and you press record, and there's episode 1. And episode 1 might be, okay, I'm starting a podcast. I don't really even know what I'm doing, but I'm hoping to have good conversations and help people find their direction. And this, even making this just scares the crap out of me, but I'm tired of not taking action on what I say I'm going to do. And so here we go. Podcast done, episode 1. That's like the greatest episode 1 of all time. Like post and then go make episode 2, right? Like people are so worried about what microphone to get and what camera and what headphones should I buy. It's all just fear talking that's preventing you from doing the most important thing, which is taking the first step.
Last question. What would you say to your 25-year-old self? He is kind of, he's amidst his entrepreneurial journey. He sees the path, but what would you say to yourself?
The answer is always your who. So for me, it's believe. I'd go back and tell myself I need more belief. For you, you go back and tell yourself you need more direction.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to be your most important core value. And I used to hate this question because I can't go back.
And I know it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm 40, right? I can't go back and talk to 25-year-old Evan. And I don't know that I would, even if I could, because I like where I ended up. But where this question becomes actually super valuable and practical is, if that's a message you would tell 25-year-old Max, if you're looking at 85-year-old Max coming back to today's Max, it's the same message. 85-year-old Max is telling 2020 Max, direction, dude. Get your direction in order. Like you think you got it, it's still nothing compared to what you could do.
Yeah.
Direction, dude.
I love
so
that.
now it's practical, because whatever you would tell your 25-year-old self, you still need right now, just in a bigger way.
Yeah. Man, thank you so much for taking the time, Evan. You're a gift of a human for myself and just for everybody out there. So I just so appreciate what you're doing.
Cool, man. Appreciate the love. What episode number is this for you?
This is 86.
86. I want to come back for 250.
250, you're in. I'm going to schedule it in.
When you're getting close to 250, let my assistant know and we'll do round 2.
I'm stoked. I'm so excited for that. Thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Awesome. Much love, Max.
Much love. Later.